Hey everyone, it's Michelle Caruana from Play Cafe Academy. And if you've been following me for the last couple years on this channel, you might be getting a little deja vu with this title and some of the other recent titles that I've done and that I will be doing on this channel. And that's because a lot of these videos that I recorded for this channel, I recorded way back in 2018 and 2019. And not only have I learned a lot since then in those last 3 or 4 years, I've also had the opportunity to work with hundreds of other indoor playground business owners, and I have a lot more perspective and different experiences, not just from my own indoor playground business experience, but also from their experiences to share. So I'm going to be doing some 2022 updates of my much older videos just to not only reflect on how much my own knowledge has grown, which I want to share with you guys, but also how the industry is changed. So again, I'm going to be going through my oldest videos and doing some 2022 updates. So that is what this is today. And one quick update that I wanted to share, if you do not subscribe to my podcast yet, I give out free indoor play business tips every single weekday. It is called the Profitable Play Podcast. All of that, all of my courses, all of my information are all linked below this video in the video description. So you can get my business plan toolkit. You can get my signature Play Cafe Academy course. You can get all of the free tips on my podcast. You can see everything I have to offer, again, below this video in the video description. So in this video, I want to talk about if the indoor playground business model can still be profitable. And even more importantly, what makes an indoor playground business profitable? Because it honestly has one of the highest failure and highest closure rates of all businesses and all brick and mortar businesses. And there's a reason for that. Again, I've had the honor of working behind the scenes with hundreds of indoor playground owners. So I have gotten really good at picking up on these commonalities between both those who are the most successful and both, those who also fail. So there are definitely commonalities amongst the play cafes that fall in both groups. And that is the perspective that I wanted to bring to this video today. And in my last video that I did in 2019, I gave 3 big indicators of an indoor playground's profitability. And in today's video, I'm going to bring 3 additional. So we're going to talk about 6 factors that really matter most in my experience when it comes to whether an indoor playground or a play cafe is going to be successful or if it's going to close within their first year or 2 years. And number 1, it always comes down to the lease. A lot of times when an indoor playground or play cafe business is really struggling, the biggest cost that is associated with that business is typically the lease. And this is not to fault those owners. It's very complicated to choose a location, to read the fine print on a lease. But unfortunately, by overlooking or glazing over that step of the process, it can really cripple them in the long term. And we see this all the time in my group coaching program, Playmaker Society. A lot of people will come into the group and say, I have this dream location, but it's not the right lease. My financial advisor says it's too expensive. Or a great example of a recent post that somebody did is somebody said that the landlord will drop lawsuit papers as soon as you are 1 day late on a payment. Or somebody said this landlord or this leasing company is very difficult to work with. And something that I've learned through coaching indoor playground owners is that, first of all, you want to choose a good contract, right? You want to listen to the people who are on your side, who have your best interest in mind. You want to listen to your lawyer. You want to listen to your broker, your real estate broker that you hire. You want to listen to your financial advisor or your accountant. They have your best interest in mind. Your potential landlord has their best interest in mind. So definitely you want to find the right contract. But something that I've seen time and time again is that even the best contract with bad people, whether that's the landlord, whether that's the leasing company, whatever the case may be, even the best contract in the world with bad people is a bad contract. And that can mean devastation for your business in the future. So a lot of things have to line up for your location, the lease, the landlord, all that good stuff. Because something that I was really naive about when I first entered this business is, what exactly the lease would entail. And I thought everything that was black and white outlined in the lease would be so. But in in practical life, in the day-to-day operations, that wasn't necessarily the case. And this has been the case for many indoor playground owners, right? So for example, somebody in Playmaker Society, they had in their lease in black and white that their landlord was responsible for snow removal and was responsible for repairs and was responsible for maintenance. But this landlord, unfortunately, wasn't a good guy, and he did not hold up his end of the lease. And he was constantly plowing 12 hours late so that customers literally could not get in their door. If their toilet backed up or their electricity was out, or if something happened, the repairs wouldn't be fixed in a timely manner as the lease had outlined. It would be weeks or months, costing them thousands of dollars in business. And a lot of people will say, well, it's in the lease, so it has to happen. But those people that say that have never actually owned a brick and mortar business before. Because a lot of times, again, these landlords will say, well, take me to small claims court, or, just don't pay your rent. And then, hey, you'll get evicted. So unfortunately, one of the ugly truths that you'll learn in this industry is, like I said, even the best contract with bad people is a bad contract. So you want to make sure all of these things are lining up, both your lease, your location, the cost associated with your lease. So if you can actually afford it. And then also you want to put some feelers around town about who you're actually leasing from. See if they have a good reputation. See if people have horror stories about them, because unfortunately, even though it shouldn't be this way, it is this way. And I've seen way too many amazing indoor playground businesses close as a result of poor leases or not reading the fine print and being taken advantage of, or entering into a contract with a bad person or with a bad group of people. Now, again, back to the lease, there's also some do's and don'ts of choosing a location and choosing a lease that I give inside of my Play Cafe Academy program. Now, of course, if you want my full rundown and all of my best tips and resources, you have to purchase the course. It's all linked below. But two of the biggest things that I tell people who enter this industry is, number one of the don'ts is not to pay for street visibility. And this is something that I talked about in my old video, and it is still true today in 2022. So what do I mean by that? Well, one of the biggest factors that determines how much you're going to be paying for a location is street visibility. A lot of retail locations, coffee shops, things like that rely on being front and center so that they get all of that drive-by traffic. However, indoor playgrounds don't really fit into this mold. And let me tell you why. If you're a parent, which a lot of you likely are, you probably know that if you're going to take your children to an indoor playground or an indoor play center, you probably know that you're not just going to drive by and say, oh, that place looks cool. Like, let's pull over, let's get little Timmy and Bobby out of their car seats and let's see what it's like. That is going to be definitely the exception and not the rule. Now, this might be a little bit different if you're in like New York City or Chicago and you get a ton of tourist traffic, but in 99% of cities, this is not going to be the case. You are not going to get drive-by or walk-by traffic because these things need to be planned in advance, right? People are working around nap schedules, potty training schedules, school schedules, other activities, right? We're busy. We can't just pull over and decide on a whim to check out a new indoor play center. And if you can, then God bless you, because that is just not me. And a lot of people will say, well, Michelle, they're still seeing your name and your business when they drive by. Again, we have to remember who our ideal customers are. We're mainly attracting parents. And I don't know about you, but as soon as I see a sign on the side of the road, even if I have the best intentions of going home and looking that business up, I forget. I have a million different things on my mind. I am not going to remember to look up if they have birthday parties or anything like that. So yes, while you can see an increase in business due to being very street visible in a very well-populated area, you are going to pay way more than it's actually worth to your business. People are going to be looking you up on Google. People are going to be hearing about you on social media. So I would rather have you pay for advertising or put money into a marketing strategy that's actually going to result in a much smaller investment and a much bigger result than you will get if your business is more street visible. Because let me tell you, you are going to pay out the wazoo for being very street visible. Because like I said, a lot of businesses depend on it. But the good news is that yours will not. So I would much rather have you be in the next town over or off the beaten path a little bit because you're a destination. People will still find you. People will seek you out. They will plan their visit or their party in advance. And I promise you, they will still find you. All right. The one other thing that I wanted to say in this point before I move on to the next one is another do is I would make sure that when you're choosing a lease and a location, that you do have enough space for a cafe, for a party room, for those big important pieces that are going to be your biggest profit and revenue generators, which we're going to talk more about. But again, I would much rather have you spend less on a bigger space off the beaten path than spend a lot more for a smaller space on a main road. You're going to have more flexibility. You're going to be able to bolster your revenue streams, and your rent, like I said, is going to be a lot cheaper. So do pay for extra space. Do not pay for street visibility. Those are two big mistakes that I see a lot of indoor playground owners make, and it causes them to not be as profitable or even sustainable, and it oftentimes will lead to business closures. All right, the second factor that really determines profitability is the owner's unique experience. Can you tell I'm like a web designer and a web developer? I talk all the time about user experience, but no, the owner's unique experience. So a lot of people will say, well, I want to open an indoor playground, but I don't have any business experience. A lot of business people will tell you, well, then you're going to fail. However, that has not been the case in most of my students' cases, and in a lot of cases that I've been a part of. The key is that you need to know what your own strengths are, and you need to know where you need help. And if you are willing and able to hire out the pieces that you cannot do yourself, you are going to be successful. And I want to make sure that I put the emphasis on, I want to make sure that you can afford to hire those pieces that you cannot do yourself. So for example, if you didn't go to school for accounting, don't try to do your own books. I have tons of videos of why that is a really bad idea. If you are not marketing savvy, you need to hire this out. Maybe not hiring an outside marketing firm because that can be really expensive, but you need to make sure that you have enough hours and enough staff members to actually delegate this task to people on your team who are very often the best people to execute your marketing strategy because they are in your business day in and day out. They can create content, all that good stuff. But again, you need to work all of these costs into your business plan. So step one is identifying your own unique experience and your own unique strengths. You need to make a list of what you can do and what you need to outsource. And you need to figure out what costs are associated with everything you need to hire out. And you need to work those costs into your business plan. So a lot of people say, well, of course, I'm a former teacher, or I'm a former stay-at-home mom, and I don't know how to keep books, or I don't know how to do marketing or anything like that. And they will identify that pretty early on, but they won't work the cost of outsourcing that into their business plan. And lawyers, CPAs, accountants, bookkeepers, all of these costs can really add up. And when some people actually see how much it costs to outsource these items, they're blown away. So what I want you to do if you're entering this industry is figure out this list ahead of time and figure out the cost associated with it to work it into your business plan so that you're not surprised and so that you can actually outsource these tasks and still have a profitable and sustainable business. Where I see a lot of businesses fail is that, again, they realize too late what they need to outsource and they can't afford it because they either signed too expensive of a lease or they're not generating enough revenue. So make sure you go into this business knowing exactly what this delegation and what this outsourcing is going to look like, and make sure that your business is set up to afford it. All right, this brings us out to point number 3, and I'm reading from my notes. So if I'm looking this way, I'm just making sure that I don't miss anything for you guys. So this brings me to number 3, the ability and willingness to delegate. So this piggybacks off of the last point that I mentioned, but I really wanted to make it its own because one of the biggest commonalities I see in business owners who are truly successful, and if you're new here, I define success not just by profitability, but also by lifestyle. So you can be the most profitable business owner in the world, but if you're working 80, 90 hours a week, if you're not getting to enjoy any of your profits, if you are not spending time with your loved ones, then your business to me is not all that successful. So I like to marry both lifestyle and profitability. And something that I see among those business owners who are most successful, so who are profitable and making a great living with their business, but also living the life that they truly want as a business owner. A big commonality between those people is that they are willing and able to delegate. So not just these things that you physically cannot do or ability-wise cannot do yourselves. Like for example, if you're not a lawyer, you might struggle to come up with legal documents. But I'm also talking about the little things. So if you are wearing all of the hats in your business, you will never be able to grow. And a commonality that I see among a lot of business owners who are drowning, who are not as profitable as they could be, who are working 80 hours a week, a big commonality in them is that they don't have any staff. They don't delegate. They don't outsource anything. And let me tell you, if you are in the weeds every single day in your business, if you are checking every customer in, if you are answering every email, if you are doing all of the things, you will never have the mental capacity or the time to improve, to be agile, to grow, to come up with new revenue streams, to innovate, to create content that is going to attract your ideal customers, to do your best work. I promise you, this is one of the biggest mistakes that indoor playground owners make. So if I feel like I'm on a soapbox right now, it's because I am. It's because if you do not have the willingness to hire staff, to outsource your marketing, to outsource all of these things, to have staff running your business so that you can play the visionary role, so that you can dream and innovate and things like that and come up with new concepts, new revenue streams. Like I said, if you don't do that, you're never going to be able to reach your full potential. So one big commonality, again, among the most successful indoor playground owners is the ability and willingness to delegate, not just what they have to, but they also delegate more and more and more over time to get themselves closer to that dream lifestyle, to only doing those few things in your business that light you up, that you absolutely love, and that actually make a big difference to the bottom line of your business, whether that's franchising, whether that's opening a second location, whether that's adding soft play rentals or tent rentals or something like that to your business. You're never going to get to that point, to that true point of scaling your business, if you're doing everything and if you're wearing all the hats. So again, ability and willingness to delegate. The fourth factor that really determines an indoor playground or play space's profitability is the interior design. So this again piggybacks off that first point I talked about when I was talking about a lease. You have to design your interior of your space, not just with your customer experience in mind, but also with profitability in mind. For example, if you're going to focus on birthday parties, you need to have an additional party room. If you're going to focus on classes, you need to make sure your business is set up to host multiple classes a day, to host classes at the same time as open play or at the same time as birthday parties. And this is something I teach step by step by step inside of my Play Cafe Academy course, is really designing your space for maximum profitability, because a lot of the people who enter this industry are teachers or are very, very passionate about play, but they don't know how to design the interior of an indoor playground to actually generate enough profit to survive and to actually impact the community with play. So you really want to make sure that you are marrying the internal design of your space with how you're actually going to make money. So for example, my indoor playground business was not designed for classes. It was an absolute disaster. We had to host our classes inside of our play area, which was super distracting, and it made our classes a complete train wreck. However, that was lucky because our main source of revenue was private birthday parties and it was memberships. So our space was surely enough designed for memberships and it was designed for birthday parties. Classes never took off for us because our space wasn't designed for it. So you need to do a really deep dive on your competitive analysis. You need to see what is currently out there in your area, and you need to marry that with what lights you up. What are your strengths? Is it providing classes? Is it birthday parties and event decor and things like that? You need to marry your interests and your strengths with what your area needs. And then you need to make sure that your interior design is completely reflective of that. A lot of indoor playground owners will try too hard to adapt to an existing space because they don't want to spend all of the money on upfront build out costs. And that is a huge mistake, because adapting to what is there existing in a building, unless it was, something that was a very similar concept, is trying to fit a square into a circle peg hole. It's going to save you money up front, but it's really going to cripple you in the long run. So I recommend spending the money up front to hire a really skilled architect and to design your business with profitability in mind. And again, make sure that you are marrying your most important, your most significant revenue streams with the interior design of your business. Again, if you need help with this, I go through all of it in painstaking detail in my Play Cafe Academy course, which is linked below. And again, you also want to make sure that you're being smart with storage. You want to make sure you have retail space, because even though you will have main revenue streams, like whether it's your cafe or your memberships or parties, you will have all of these additional revenue streams that, even though they're not the focus, they will determine your profitability and your sustainability as a whole. So you need to think of all of these different things when you're doing your build out. And again, if you need my help, I am here to help you. All right, this brings us to our second to last factor that determines your profitability as an indoor playground, and that is your revenue streams. So yes, you need to design your space to be reflective of your main revenue streams, but you also need to be really strategic with setting up your revenue streams. So like I said, you need to do a competitive analysis. You need to figure out what people in your area need, what people in your area are looking for. And yes, you can do polls in Facebook groups and things like that. Never ask about pricing in these Facebook groups, ever, ever, ever. Pricing is a business calculation and it's a business decision. It is not something that should be crowdsourced. However, you certainly can ask, hey, is there something missing in regards to birthday parties in our area? Or do you guys wish that there was a space for the babies and toddlers in the area, right? You need to marry what your area needs with your main revenue streams, and you need to have a clear focus. And I do have a video on this channel all about the 6 main revenue streams of an indoor playground business and how to choose the best revenue stream for you. Because if you don't have a main focus and a main priority when it comes to your revenue, and you just try to evenly distribute your effort and your marketing and all that good stuff between all of your revenue streams, that is one of the clearest indicators to me that you will not succeed. You need to not just set up multiple revenue streams, but you need to choose one to focus on, and you need to walk the walk when it comes to that. So if you're going to focus on parties, you need to actually spend the time and focus on parties. Your space needs to be completely designed around parties, in such a sense that open play will actually start being simply a rehearsal for birthday parties. Your open play may simply just work to book parties. So again, you need to design your space around that. And you also need to make sure that you're putting your marketing focus on parties. You're sending emails about parties. You are generating your email list based on a party opt-in, something like that. This is all stuff I talk about on my podcast as well. So be sure to subscribe to that for these free tips. But you need to choose a clear revenue stream focus and walk the walk. You need to actually put your time and energy in growing that revenue stream and let all of the other ones be secondary. So choose a clear focus. All right, so the last factor that will determine an indoor playground's profitability is the ability and willingness to be agile. So just like the ability and willingness to delegate, you need to stay on your toes as a business owner. You need to stay on top of the trends, and you also need to live in your numbers. So if one of your revenue streams isn't pulling its weight, isn't making as much as you expected it to, if one of your marketing tactics isn't generating enough sales, you need to know how to identify what's working, what isn't working, and you need to be willing to adapt and change. So one of the biggest things that has come up in the indoor playground industry in the last couple of years is people have been really interested in these elaborate balloon decor items. So hoops, garlands, balloon walls, things like that. The indoor playground owners that have adapted to this and have started offering these services in-house have kept up with the trends and are enjoying the profits because of it. But the people who have just kind of said, oh, you know what, I'll hire that out, or I'll let the other people worry about it, or those people who don't have the ability or willingness to delegate, so they don't have the ability to stay on top of these trends just because of time and mental space's sake, they're going to fall behind. They're going to have competitors open up that are going to take their revenue and take their clients. They are going to have to spend way more money outsourcing these tasks where they could be enjoying that profit for themselves. So you need to be able to live in the numbers, figure out what's working, figure out what's not working, and you need to be on your toes and willing to change. A lot of indoor playground owners will come to me and say, I'm really struggling. And I'll say, okay, tell me how you're making your money. Tell me where most of your customers come from. And either they don't know, or they just kind of say, well, they come in the door and, I post on Facebook, but I don't really have a lot of followers, or I have followers, but they're not really engaged. And they have no idea what's working and what's not working. So they have no idea where to spend more time and more energy. And they just really have no starting point. So you need to know, again, how to understand these things, and you have to be willing to constantly adapt as a business owner, and you have to be agile. All right, so these are the 6 main factors that will determine the profitability of a play cafe or an indoor playground. And again, if you need help with any of these, follow my podcast for free daily tips all about these different factors that I talked about, where I give daily tips, like I said, for free. Or you can enroll in one of my courses or programs. They are all linked below. I have completely dedicated my business to helping you find success in this industry a lot faster than I did. So thank you for watching this 2022 updated video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you found it helpful. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel because I put out new videos all the time, especially these industry updates. Have a great day, guys.